Captain Kim Taemin sat in his chair on the bridge of the New Seoul and looked out at the empty space between stars. The message from Earth had come 3 hours ago, and he still could not believe what Dr. Park So-young had told him. 3 human colonies had gone silent in the past month. Not destroyed, not attacked, just silent. The New Seoul was not a warship. It was a research vessel built to explore new worlds and study alien life forms. But today, it felt more like a rescue ship flying toward something terrible. Commander Lee Dobbin stood next to his chair reading reports on her tablet. Her face was serious as always, but Taemin could see worry in her eyes. Engineer Choi Min-ho called from the engine room. "Captain, we will reach New Busan in 2 hours. All systems are running perfectly." Dr. Han Yu-jin looked up from her science station. "I have been studying the last transmissions from all 3 colonies. Captain, the pattern is very strange. All 3 colonies reported friendly contact with aliens who called themselves the Vex. Then nothing." Taemin rubbed his tired eyes. He had been exploring space for 15 years and had seen many strange things, but 3 entire colonies disappearing without any sign of trouble was something new. What did the colonies say about these Vex aliens? Yu-jin pulled up the data on the main screen. They described them as tall, gray-skinned beings with black eyes. Very advanced technology. They came offering trade agreements and asking questions about human space. The colonists seemed excited about making new alien friends. Dabin frowned. "That sounds too good to be true." "Captain, most first contact situations involve months of careful communication. These aliens seem to have moved very fast." The New Seoul dropped out of hyperspace near the planet Kepler 442c, where New Busan colony was located. The planet looked normal from orbit, red dusty surface with the colony domes visible on the surface. Taemin could see the mining equipment, still working. Everything looked peaceful. "Take us down." Min-ho Taemin ordered standard landing procedures. The shuttle landed near the main colony buildings, and the crew put on their environmental suits. The planet had breathable air, but safety protocols required suits during investigations. As they walked toward the colony entrance, Taemin felt something wrong in his stomach. The place was too quiet. Dabin checked her scanner readings. No life signs. "Captain, but no signs of violence either. Power is still running. Life support is active. It looks like everyone just left." They entered the main building and found something that made no sense. Half-eaten meals sat on tables in the dining hall. Workstations were still active with projects left. Unfinished personal belongings were scattered around as if people had been in the middle of normal activities. When something happened, Yu-jin took readings with her scientific equipment. "Captain, I am detecting strange energy patterns throughout the colony. These readings do not match any known human technology." They moved to the communications center where Dabin found something important. The security systems were shut down from inside the colony, not destroyed or damaged. Someone, the colonists, trusted had turned off their defenses. In the main computer core, they found a hidden message file. Colony Administrator Shin Dong-wook had recorded a final transmission before whatever happened to them. His face on the screen was pale and scared as he whispered to the camera. "The Vex came 3 days ago," he said in the recording. "They seemed so friendly, so advanced. They offered us technology for mining and asked about our maps of human space. They wanted to know about our military bases, our population centers. I thought they were just being careful about security agreements." The recording continued. "They have been asking many questions about Earth, about our other colonies. They know so much about us already. How many ships we have, where our important facilities are located. I am starting to think." The message cut to static and nothing more. Taemin felt cold fear in his chest. The Vex had not come to make friends. They had come to gather information about humanity. Captain Dobbin called. "Out, I am detecting incoming ships." 3 vessels approaching fast on the main screen. 3 silver ships appeared from hyperspace. Their design was completely alien, sleek and beautiful, but somehow wrong. They did not respond to communication attempts. But they did not attack either. They just followed the new soul as it prepared to leave. The second colony, New Daegu, was on an agricultural world. The crew found exactly the same situation. Empty buildings, no signs of fighting, and those same, strange, energy readings. But here they found more computer files showing weeks of communication between the colonists and the Vex. The aliens had been very patient, asking innocent questions about crop yields, transportation routes, and communication networks. They offered advanced farming technology in return for detailed maps of human-controlled space. The colonists had been happy to help their new alien friends. Yu Jin made an important discovery while studying the energy readings capped in these patterns. Match theoretical models for matter transportation. The Vex did not kill the colonists, they took them somewhere else, along with everything they knew about our civilization. The third colony, New Incheon, told the same story. But here they found something much worse. In the colony, databanks were communications between the Vex and other alien species. The messages revealed a terrible truth. The Vex were part of something called the Dominion, and they had done this before. Many times Taemin read the translated alien communications with growing horror. The pattern was always the same. First contact appears peaceful. The Vex offer advanced technology and favorable trade deals. They ask innocent questions about military strength and resources, claiming it is for mutual protection. Then entire populations disappear overnight. What made this worse was what the aliens said about humans. According to the intercepted messages, most species simply surrender when faced with overwhelming force. But the Vex had concerns about humans. Their preliminary studies suggested that humans react to betrayal with something they called irrational, persistent aggression. The Dominion Council was debating whether to proceed with their planned invasion of human space or find a different approach. They were worried about something they had never encountered before. A species that becomes more dangerous when betrayed instead of weaker. As the new soul prepared to return to Earth with this terrible news, they received another transmission. But this one was not from Dr. Park, it was from the Vex themselves. The alien voice was cold and mechanical as it thanked Captain Taemin for his investigation. They explained that his ship movements had helped them map additional human settlements and military installations. His dedication to finding the missing colonists had given them exactly the intelligence they needed. Taemin felt like he had been punched in the stomach by trying to save the colonists. He had made things worse. The Vex had been tracking their every move, learning from their responses, using their own care for their people. Against them, red alarms began flashing throughout the ship as Dobbin detected massive energy signatures emerging from hyperspace. Around them, hundreds of alien vessels far more advanced than anything humanity had ever built appeared in perfect formation. The Vex had sprung their trap and the new soul was caught in the middle. Taemin looked at his crew and saw the same realization. In their eyes, the aliens had made a mistake, though. They had studied human behavior, but they did not understand what happens when humans realize they have been betrayed. They were about to learn that lesson in the hardest way possible. The bridge, filled with emergency lighting as 300 Vex ships surrounded their single research vessel. The odds were impossible, but Taemin felt something burning in his chest that the aliens clearly did not expect. Pure focused rage at being manipulated and used, he stood slowly and looked at the alien fleet on his screen. The Vex thought they understood humans, but they were wrong. Betrayal did not make humans weak or emotional. It made them dangerous. The bridge of the new soul filled with red emergency lights as Captain Taemin stared at the impossible sight on his main screen. 300 alien ships surrounded his single research vessel like sharks circling wounded prey. Each Vex ship was twice the size of his vessel, and their silver hulls gleamed with advanced technology that humanity could only dream of. Commander Dobbin worked frantically at her weapons console, even though everyone knew their research ship carried only basic defensive systems. Captain, we are outgunned by 300 to 1. She reported, her voice steady despite the impossible odds. But something is strange about their formation. They are not positioned for immediate attack from the engine room. Engineer, Minho voice crackled over the intercom. Captain, I am reading massive energy buildup from their ships, but these are not weapon signatures. The patterns look like the same teleportation technology we found at the colonies. They want to take us alive, Doctor. Yujin looked up from her science station with wide, frightened eyes. That makes sense, Captain. They need us functional to extract information about Earth defenses. But I have been analyzing their communication patterns and I think they are making a huge mistake about human psychology. The main view screen flickered and showed the interior of a Vex command ship. The alien commander appeared on screen, tall and wrong-looking with gray skin that seemed to shift like liquid mercury. His eyes were completely black and empty. When he spoke, his voice carried no emotion at all, like he was reading a shopping list. Human vessel. You will surrender immediately, the alien said. Your species' tendency toward emotional decision-making has been calculated, and accounted for resistance will only delay the inevitable absorption of your civilization into the Dominion. You have 60 seconds to comply. Taimin stood slowly from his command chair, feeling anger burn in his chest like fire. His hands were steady despite the adrenaline rushing through his body. This is Captain Kim Taemin of the Earth vessel New Seoul. I have a message for your Dominion. He paused, letting his rage sharpen his words. You made one critical error in your calculations. You studied human psychology, but you did not understand it. The Vex commander tilted his head with mechanical precision like a robot processing new data. Explain. You think betrayal makes us emotional and irrational? Taemin said, his voice getting colder. You are completely wrong. Betrayal makes us methodical. It makes us patient. It makes us willing to sacrifice everything to ensure that those who betrayed us pay the price. He smiled, and the expression was as cold as deep space. You wanted to study humans. Let me give you a real-time demonstration. Dobbin looked at her captain with understanding dawning in her eyes. She began entering commands into her console. Not weapons targeting, but something else entirely. Min-ho, monitoring from engineering, caught on immediately and started his own sequence. The Vex commander expression did not change, but there was a slight pause before he responded. Your threats are meaningless. We have observed human behavior under stress. You will attempt some futile gesture of defiance, then accept capture when faced with overwhelming force. You are right about one thing, Taemin admitted. We are going to make a gesture, but there is nothing futile about it. He turned to Yujin. Doctor, please transmit your xenobiology report to Earth. All of it. Yujin's fingers flew over her console like lightning, transmitting everything we learned about Vex biology, their technology signatures, their fleet compositions, and their behavioral patterns. Earth Command. We'll have this data in 37 minutes. The Vex commander composure cracked slightly for the first time. That transmission will be intercepted and blocked. With what Dobbin asked, her voice carrying satisfaction. Your ships are positioned for capture. Operations, not communication interference. You assumed we would try to fight or run, not think strategically. Min-ho voice echoed from engineering. Captain, I have implemented Protocol 7. All ship systems are now running on overload cycles. We have maybe 10 minutes before cascade failure. The Vex commander finally showed something resembling concern. You would destroy your own vessel. That is irrational. We offer survival through cooperation. Taemin laughed, and the sound made the alien visibly uncomfortable. You still do not get it. This is not about survival anymore. This is about making sure you understand what it means to betray humanity. Yujin, what did your analysis reveal about their weakness? Dr. Yujin pulled up her data on the main screen. Their ships are interconnected through a quantum communication network. Captain, it allows for perfect coordination but creates a critical vulnerability. A properly calibrated feedback pulse could cascade through their entire fleet. And the good news, Taemin prompted. Our reactor overload will generate exactly that type of pulse, she explained. Not enough to destroy their ships, but enough to cripple their systems and strand them here for several hours. The Vex commander black eyes widened. You would sacrifice yourselves for such a minor tactical advantage. Minor Dabin shook her head. In those several hours, Earth will receive our data and begin preparations. They will know you are coming, how you operate, and what your ships look like. You will lose the element of surprise you spent months orchestrating. The alien voice became urgent for the first time. We can negotiate. The Dominion is willing to offer The time for negotiation ended when you betrayed the colonists. Tai-Min cut him off. You want to understand human psychology. Here is your lesson. We do not just get mad when we are betrayed. We get even. Warning alarms began blaring throughout the Vex fleet as their sensors detected the impending reactor overload. The alien commander image flickered as his ship systems began experiencing interference from the building. Energy cascade. This is not logical. The Vex commander protested his perfect composure, finally cracking. Completely. Logic is what you use when you are not angry. Enough, Tai-Min replied. Minho, execute Protocol 7. The reactor core of the New Sol began to overload in a carefully controlled cascade. Minho had spent years learning every detail of their ship engine, and he knew exactly how to make it fail, in the most spectacular way possible. The energy buildup would create an electromagnetic pulse specifically tuned to disrupt Vex quantum communication networks. Through the viewscreen, Tai-Min could see panic beginning to spread through the alien fleet. Their perfect coordination was breaking down as ships lost contact with each other. Some vessels tried to move away from the overloading human ship, while others attempted to complete their capture mission. The result was chaos in their previously perfect formation. The Vex commander made one last desperate attempt. Human captain, your sacrifice gains nothing. Your species will still face invasion. Maybe, Tai-Min said. But now they will be ready for you. Now they know that you are liars and betrayers. Now they know that peaceful first contact with the Vex is actually a trick to gather intelligence. And most importantly, now they know that you can be hurt. The energy cascade reached critical levels, and beautiful, terrifying light began to pour from the New Sol reactor core. The electromagnetic pulse spread outward like ripples in a pond, washing over the Vex fleet and causing their advanced systems to flicker and fail. Yu-Jin looked at her captain with pride. Captain, the pulse is propagating through their quantum network perfectly. Their entire fleet will be blind and deaf for at least 6 hours. That gives Earth time to prepare. Tai-Min said as alarms blared around them. The Vex wanted to learn about human psychology. Well, they just got their first lesson. When you betray humans, we do not cry or beg. We make you pay. The last thing the crew of the New Sol saw was the beautiful light of their reactor going critical, and the satisfaction of knowing that their sacrifice would give humanity its first real chance to fight back. The Vex had studied human behavior, but they had never learned to fear it. That was about to change. Admiral Yoon Seo-jin stood in the war room deep beneath Seoul, watching holographic displays show the data that Captain Tai-Min and his crew had died to transmit. The sacrifice of the New Sol had given Earth 36 hours to prepare for an invasion that previous civilizations never saw coming. Around the conference table, the best military minds on Earth struggled to understand the enormous scale of what they were facing. General Nam Ki-wook, head of Earth Unified Defense Force, pointed to the tactical displays showing Vex fleet compositions. 300 ships in just the advanced scout fleet, he said grimly. Intelligence suggests the main invasion force numbers in the thousands. Technologically, they are decades ahead of us in every category except one. What is our advantage? Asked Dr. Kang Mi-ran, the Defense Department chief strategist. They do not understand human psychology under pressure. Admiral Yoon replied, her voice carrying the weight of command. Captain Tai-Min, final action proves something the Vex never calculated. When humans are betrayed, we do not just fight back. We fight smart. The room filled with tense silence as everyone processed what this meant. Earth had never faced an alien invasion, but every person in this room understood that normal military thinking would not save them. They needed to think like Captain Tai-Min did, not just with courage, but with the cold calculation that comes from knowing you have been betrayed. Colonel Park Young-sik, commander of the Mars defense platforms, raised the concern that had been bothering everyone. The intercepted Vex communications mention that they have conquered dozens of civilizations using this exact same strategy. Peaceful first contact intelligence gathering. Then sudden overwhelming force. What makes us think we can succeed where others failed? Dr. Kang pulled up comparative psychological profiles on her display. According to the xenobiological data Dr. Eugene transmitted, most species follow predictable patterns when faced with superior force. They either submit immediately or fight desperately and ineffectively. But humans. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Humans apparently have something the Vex call persistent spite. We will hurt ourselves, to hurt our enemies. They meant that as a weakness, General Nam observed. But Captain Taemin turned it into a weapon, Admiral. Yoon nodded. Which brings us to our strategy. The Vex expect us to either surrender or fight conventionally. We are going to do neither. She activated new displays showing Earth defensive installations. Operation Persistence is not about winning a straight fight. It is about making victory so expensive that the Dominion questions whether humanity is worth conquering. The plan that emerged over the next several hours was unlike anything in military history. Rather than concentrating forces for major battles, Earth defenses would be distributed and designed for one purpose, making the Vex pay for every meter of progress. Every orbital platform, every lunar base, every asteroid mining station would become a potential trap commander. Lee Hunwoo, head of the asteroid belt mining operations, presented his part of the plan. We have been retrofitting mining charges with remote detonation systems, he explained. The Vex want our resource maps. They will get them along with enough explosives to turn every mining operation into a deadly surprise. Dr. Song Ah-young, director of Earth Communication Networks, outlined her contribution. We are implementing a quantum encryption system based on human emotional patterns. The Vex think logically and consistently. Our encryption keys will be based on things like anger, grief, and spite emotions. Their psychology, apparently, cannot properly model. But the most daring part of the plan came from an unexpected source. Dr. Lim Woo-jin, a civilian psychologist who specialized in trauma response, had been studying the Vex behavioral data with growing excitement. Admiral, I think we are approaching this wrong, he said, causing the room to fall silent. Everyone is focused on the military implications, but look at their communication patterns. The Vex commander who spoke to Captain Taemin showed genuine confusion at human behavior. They study species before conquering them, but they have never encountered anything like human stubbornness. Your point, General Nam asked. My point is that the Vex are not just militarily unprepared for human psychology, they are psychologically unprepared. Dr. Lim pulled up personality analysis charts. Every one of their previous conquests followed predictable patterns. We represent something completely outside their experience. They are facing an enemy that becomes more dangerous when betrayed, more creative under pressure, and more unified in the face of extinction. Admiral Yoon saw where this was leading. You are suggesting we weaponize our unpredictability. Exactly. The Vex have detailed plans for every scenario they can imagine, but they cannot imagine scenarios that require understanding human emotional responses. Every time we act out of spite instead of logic, every time we choose a costly victory over a cheap defeat, we force them into uncharted territory. As the planning session continued, reports arrived from across the solar system. The Mars colonies were implementing scorched earth protocols. If they could not hold their territories, they would make sure the Vex got nothing useful from them. The asteroid miners were preparing to turn their entire operation into the galaxy's largest minefield. Even civilian populations were organizing resistance cells based on the principle that making occupation impossible was more important than preserving infrastructure. The final element of the plan came from Captain Cha Yeon-soo, head of Earth Intelligence Services. We have been analyzing the Vex language patterns and communication protocols, she reported. They are remarkably standardized across their entire fleet. If we can introduce psychological warfare messages designed to exploit their inability to understand human emotional logic, we might be able to create confusion in their command structure. Admiral Yoon stood and addressed the room as the meeting reached its conclusion. Captain Taemin and his crew bought us time with their sacrifice. They showed us that our supposed weakness, our emotional response to betrayal, is actually our greatest strength. The Vex studied human behavior, but they never learned to fear it. That ends now. Around the solar system, preparation began in earnest. On Mars, Colonel Park, Youngsik implemented his gift-wrapping protocol, leaving bases intact but rigged with so many traps that occupying them would be more dangerous than ignoring them. The asteroid belt became a three-dimensional maze where nothing was where it should be, and every rock might explode. On Earth itself, factories worked around the clock, not to build weapons that could match Vex technology, but to create millions of small surprises designed to make conquest as expensive as possible. Every city, every town, every farm was being prepared for the kind of resistance that the Dominion had never encountered before. Dr. Lim worked with communication specialists to develop what they called spite broadcasts, messages specifically designed to confuse alien minds that could not understand emotional decision-making. The broadcasts would not try to intimidate the Vex. Instead, they would systematically explain human psychology in ways that would make the aliens question everything they thought they knew about conquest. As Earth prepared for invasion, Admiral Yoon received regular reports from around the solar system. Every military base, every civilian settlement, every mining operation was implementing the same basic strategy. Make the Vex pay such a high price for victory that they would regret ever hearing the word human. The most important preparation was psychological. Earth population was not being told to fight bravely or die heroically. Instead, they were being taught the same lesson that Captain Taemin had demonstrated. Betrayal was not something to fear or mourn. It was something to avenge methodically, completely, and without regard for cost. When the Vex invasion fleet finally arrived, they would find something no previous civilization had ever shown them, a species that considered spite, a virtue, and revenge, a sacred duty. They would learn what Captain Taemin had tried to teach them, that betraying humanity was not just a tactical error. It was the beginning of a very expensive education. The Vex invasion fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. Exactly when Admiral Yoon intelligence had predicted, 2,000 ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their silver hulls gleaming against the backdrop of stars. On the bridge of the flagship Eternal Harmony, Vex Fleet Commander Zekhar reviewed the tactical data. One final time, every calculation indicated that this conquest should proceed exactly like the previous 47 civilizations absorbed by the Dominion. But as the fleet advanced toward Earth, the first signs appeared that humanity would not follow the expected patterns. The Vex encountered their first surprise at the orbit of Pluto, where Earth deep space monitoring stations should have been. Instead of functioning installations, they found empty structures with massive holographic projectors displaying a simple message in perfect Vex script. Welcome to Earth space population. Extremely hostile. Proceed at your own risk, Commander. Zekhar studied the message with growing confusion. This is not typical psychological warfare. Most species attempt to appear stronger than they are. These humans are advertising their hostility. His tactical officer, Subcommander Nalven, reported. Additional problems, sir. We are detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the outer system. It appears the humans have moved things. Explain. Several asteroids are no longer in their predicted orbital positions. Long-range scans suggest they have been fitted with propulsion systems and are now following seemingly random flight paths throughout the system. As the fleet advanced the true scope of humanity, preparations became clear. The asteroid belt had been transformed into a three-dimensional maze of mobile obstacles, each one potentially carrying enough explosives to damage even Vex shields. Rather than creating static defensive positions, the humans had turned their entire solar system into a dynamic battlefield, where nothing was where it should be. The first actual combat occurred near Jupiter, where the Vex expected to find human gas mining operations. Instead, they encountered Commander Bae Sungmin Trojan Horse strategy. What appeared to be abandoned mining platforms suddenly sprang to life as the Vex ships approached, launching swarms of small craft that should not exist according to human technological assessments. These were not traditional fighters. They were modified mining pods piloted by volunteers who had no intention of returning home. Each pod carried a single nuclear device and a pilot driven by what Dr. Yu Jin had correctly identified as persistent spite. The pods did not try to outfight Vex interceptors. They simply rammed into larger ships with the dedication of people who considered dying while killing enemies a perfectly acceptable trade. Subcommander Nalven struggled to process what he was witnessing. Sir, the human pilots are deliberately colliding with our vessels. This is not efficient combat behavior. They causing significant damage. Zekhar asked, yes, sir. Each collision damages or destroys ships worth exponentially more than the attacking craft. By any logical calculation, they should preserve their forces for more efficient engagements. Zekhar began to understand why the Dominion Council had expressed concerns about human psychology. They are not fighting to win efficiently. They are fighting to make victory expensive. The pattern continued as the fleet advanced toward Mars, the red planet. Defensive installations did not attempt to stop the Vex fleet. They simply ensured that everything useful was destroyed before the aliens could claim it. Colonel Park Jung-sik implemented his gift-wrapping protocol, leaving Mars bases intact but rigged with so many booby traps that occupying them became more dangerous than ignoring them. But the real psychological warfare began when the Vex fleet reached Earth-Moon. Instead of the desperate defense they expected, they found Luna completely evacuated except for a single transmission tower broadcasting continuously. The message delivered by a calm female voice began to systematically deconstruct Vex tactical doctrine. Attention, Vex commanders. This is Dr. Kang Miran of Earth Strategic Command. We have been studying your previous conquest patterns, and we would like to point out several flaws in your methodology. The transmission continued for hours, analyzing every aspect of Vex military theory with the detached professionalism of a university lecture. It pointed out logical inconsistencies in their formation tactics, suggested improvements to their resource allocation strategies, and politely noted that their psychological warfare techniques were adequate for species that value survival over spite, but poorly adapted for cultures that prioritize revenge over rationality. Commander Zekhar found himself actually listening to the analysis, despite recognizing it as an obvious attempt at psychological manipulation. The human critique of Vex tactics was not only accurate, but demonstrated a level of strategic thinking that contradicted their assessments of human military capability. Sir Nalven reported with something approaching concern, our lower-ranked commanders are requesting clarification on several points raised in the human transmission. The analysis is compelling. The final element of Earth's psychological strategy deployed as the Vex fleet assumed orbital positions around the planet, rather than launching a final desperate defense. Earth began broadcasting the personal histories of every human who died when the 3 colonies disappeared, not as propaganda but as simple biographical information. The broadcasts described normal lives: farmers, miners, teachers, children, and ended each biography with the same phrase, "This person trusted you and was betrayed. Their death will be avenged." The cumulative effect of thousands of these personal stories began to affect even the emotionally controlled Vex command structure. They had expected to face abstract military resistance, not the systematic psychological weight of every individual life their strategy had destroyed as Earth actual military forces finally engaged the Vex fleet in orbit. Commander Zekhar realized that every human tactic had been designed around a single principle, making the Vex understand that betraying humanity carried consequences far beyond simple military defeat. The humans were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting to ensure that the cost of betrayal became so high that the Dominion would think twice before deceiving anyone, ever again. The space battle around Earth looked nothing like the conquest scenarios the Vex had executed 47 times before human forces used tactics that defied military logic. Civilian ships converted into missile platforms, research satellites that revealed hidden weapon systems. Even the International Space Station transformed into a fortress that took an entire squadron to neutralize, and only after its crew ensured that the Vex gained nothing from its capture. Every small victory came at a cost that made Zekhar question the entire operation. His fleet achieved tactical superiority but at losses that exceeded all projections. The humans were not defending territory. They were maximizing the price of every meter. The Vex advanced. Sir Nalven reported, "We have achieved orbital control, but at 17% fleet losses. The humans are implementing what they call scorched earth tactics on a planetary scale, and the ground invasion delayed indefinitely, sir. The humans have systematically destroyed or contaminated everything of value, Manufacturing centers demolished, data centers wiped resource, stockpiles scattered or irradiated. They are making their own planet worthless to conquer. Commander Zekhar stared at the tactical displays showing his fleet control of a solar system that had been systematically stripped of everything that made conquest profitable. The humans had not tried to prevent invasion, they had made invasion pointless. For the first time in Dominion military history, a technologically superior force was discovering that victory could be more expensive than defeat. The final battle for Earth raged in the space between Luna and the home planet. But it looked nothing like the conquest scenarios the Vex had executed 47 times before Admiral Yoon Seo-jin commanded the defense from the bridge of the Indomitable Soul, watching as her carefully orchestrated strategy unfolded exactly as humanity defenders had planned, chaotically, spitefully, and with complete disregard for conventional military logic. The Vex fleet, despite overwhelming technological superiority, found itself trapped in the kind of warfare they had never encountered. Every small victory came at a cost that made no sense. Every tactical advantage was immediately countered by human forces, willing to sacrifice valuable assets just to deny the Vex any feeling of progress. Commander Zekhar watched his tactical displays with growing unease. His fleet should have achieved complete orbital dominance hours ago. But human defenders continued to emerge from impossible locations, civilian transports converted into missile platforms, research satellites that suddenly revealed hidden weapon systems, even garbage scows that transformed into guided bombs piloted by volunteers who considered ramming enemy ships a perfectly reasonable career choice status report. Zekhar demanded. Sub-Commander Nalven's voice carried uncertainty for the first time in his military career. Sir, we have achieved tactical control of orbital space, but at 19% fleet losses. The humans are not defending territory, they are maximizing the cost of every meter we advance. And the ground invasion, delayed indefinitely, sir. The humans have poisoned their own planet. Zekhar's expression showed confusion. Explain. Not literally, sir, but they have systematically destroyed or contaminated everything of value. Manufacturing centers have been demolished. Data centers wiped, resource stockpiles scattered or irradiated. They are implementing what they call scorched earth tactics on a planetary scale down on Earth. Surface General Nam Ki-wook coordinated the final phase of Operation Persistence from a bunker beneath the Korean peninsula. His forces were not trying to prevent Vex landings. They were ensuring that every landing site became a trap designed to teach the invaders what it meant to occupy a world full of people who considered revenge more important than survival. The turning point came when Dr. Lim Woo-jin's psychological warfare strategy achieved something unprecedented in Dominion military history. The constant broadcasts of human personal stories combined with the economic analysis of Vex tactical doctrine began to affect Vex command decision-making in ways their species had never experienced for the first time in their conquest. History Vex field commanders began questioning their orders, not from cowardice or tactical disagreement, but from something the Dominion had never had to account for: moral uncertainty. The systematic presentation of individual human lives destroyed by Vex deception forced even their emotionally suppressed minds to confront the personal cost of their strategy. Commander Zekhar received a communication that changed everything. It came not from his superiors in the Dominion but from his own tactical officers. Sir Nalven reported, "We have achieved the mission parameters. Earth military resistance has been neutralized. The planet is ready for resource extraction and population processing. Then proceed with standard protocols." Sir Nalven paused, a hesitation that would have been impossible before encountering human psychology. The cost-benefit analysis no longer supports continued operations. Zekhar's surprise was complete. Explained fleet losses now exceed 20%. Ground control requires continuous military presence due to ongoing resistance. Resource extraction is complicated by systematic human sabotage. Population processing, Nalven stopped entirely. Continue your report. Sir, the human population refuses to process. They have implemented mass suicide protocols rather than submit to Dominion control. We cannot extract intelligence, labor, or resources from a species that chooses death over cooperation. In the bunker below Seoul, Admiral Yoon received similar reports. From around the globe, humanity's final strategy was working exactly as planned. Rather than allowing themselves to be absorbed into the Dominion, like 47 previous civilizations, humans were demonstrating what happened when you betrayed a species that valued revenge over survival. The reports coming in from every continent told the same story. Human populations were not fighting desperately to save their lives. They were fighting methodically to make conquest as expensive as possible. Every factory that could not be held was destroyed. Every data center that might contain useful information was wiped. Every resource stockpile that could benefit the invaders was contaminated or scattered. But more than that, humans were refusing to cooperate in their own conquest. When Vex forces attempted to establish control over population centers, they found empty cities. Entire populations had evacuated not to safety, but to prepared positions where they could continue resistance indefinitely. The Vex had conquered the buildings, but the people had vanished into prepared hideouts where they could make occupation impossible. Commander Zekhar received his final communication from Dominion Command. The message was brief and carried implications that would echo throughout the galaxy. Conquest of human species deemed economically unfeasible. Withdraw all forces and implement quarantine protocol. 7. Humanity is to be avoided by all member species until further evaluation. As the Vex fleet began its withdrawal from Earth orbit, Subcommander Nalven asked the question that would reshape Dominion expansion policy. Sir, what do we report as the reason for mission failure? Zekhar studied the tactical data one final time, trying to understand how a technologically inferior species had achieved something no previous civilization had managed. Report that human psychological patterns make them unsuitable for Dominion integration. Recommend that future contact be avoided. Sir, should we not report their tactical innovations? Other species might attempt to replicate their strategies. Zekhar considered this, then made a decision that would protect dozens of future civilizations. Negative report only that the cost of conquest exceeded. Projected benefits do not explain human psychological warfare techniques. The withdrawal of the Vex fleet from Earth orbit marked the first time in Dominion history that a technologically superior force had been forced to retreat, not by military defeat, but by economic calculation. The humans had not prevented conquest. They had made conquest pointless as the last Vex ship disappeared into hyperspace. Admiral Yoon addressed Earth's surviving population through emergency broadcast networks. Her message was simple. The price of betraying humanity has been established. The galaxy now knows that we cannot be conquered because we refuse to make conquest profitable. In the months that followed, Earth began receiving communications from other species throughout the galaxy. Some were congratulations from civilizations that had suffered under Dominion rule. Others were warnings from species that feared human unpredictability, but all carried the same underlying message. Humanity had changed the rules of galactic conquest forever. The Vex continued their expansion throughout the galaxy, but never again attempted deception-based conquest. The mere mention of human psychological patterns in Dominion planning sessions was enough to eliminate entire star systems from consideration. The cost of betraying one stubborn species had proven too high to risk encountering another. Years later, when other species asked human diplomats how Earth had defeated such a powerful enemy, the answer was always the same. We did not defeat them. We taught them that some species are too expensive to betray. The Vex studied our behavior, but they never learned to fear our spite. Humanity, greatest victory was not destroying the Vex fleet, but demonstrating to the galaxy that betrayal carried consequences that transcended military defeat. They had shown that some species, when pushed too far, would burn down everything rather than submit. Captain Taemin sacrifice had taught the galaxy a lesson that would protect countless civilizations for generations to come. The price of betraying humanity was not just military resistance, it was the complete rejection of conquest as a profitable endeavor.